then tell me about how you went from that to your experience as working for Home Shopping, CBS, and Fox, and all these other big corporations that you were a spokesperson for.
You know what? That is such a good question. When you ask, how do you transition from, being a flight attendant, and how did all that work? Well, actually, I was told when I was really young, and people would tell my parents that, oh, she's tall and thin, and she should be a model, and I always said, no, I want to use my brain. So I never wanted to do that when I was young. I was actually very old in the business. I started modeling at 21 years old. And to getting started, that's older, older for that business. I was very fortunate. I had somebody come up to me in a restaurant. Joe Penny was the agent from Toronto, and said, hey, have you ever thought of modeling? I said, oh, I just took pictures. Next thing I know, I'm doing an album cover. And so got started on doing that whole thing with the modeling, and which was a lot of fun, and ended up getting the job as a flight attendant because I could work the two together. And then all of a sudden they just started asking me if I wanted to audition for commercials. And I thought, well, okay, why not? And then the next thing I know, I'm getting commercials, and I ended up moving out to Los Angeles just to move out here for fun with a girlfriend, not to be a movie star like most people come out here, for the entertainment industry. And I ended up sending out my modeling card to agencies. I looked in a phone book, and everybody said, nobody's ever going to call you. You have to know somebody in that town. Nobody's ever going to call you. And I said, well, I'm just going to try, And I went to the phone book, picked 10 agencies, and I heard back from 3. And 3 very top agencies. And one was Judith Fontaine, and that's who I ended up going with in Los Angeles, like that. And when everyone said, there's no way, that could never happen, and it was easy, and it did happen. And then the next thing I know, they're opening a theatrical department, and the next thing I know, they're sending me on a TV audition. I had no training at that point for acting, and I go on an audition for the head of the class with Billy Connolly, and I booked it as a co-star. Very first job out, and I thought, wow, that's going to be easy. Well, it's a little tougher after that, but I don't know if it was beginner's luck, but things did flow well, and so I ended up kind of going that route. And I do feel that my college education, because what I did go to school for is marketing. And I always used to say to people in Los Angeles, you know what, there are much prettier girls than me. There are much more talented girls than me here in LA, but I will always work. And I'll tell you why, because I know how to market. And so the big thing is that business, no matter what you're doing, and having business knowledge, and having that marketing savvy, and your education, whatever it is, it all builds together to take you to the next level of where you need to go. And so that's what I found for me, and it worked perfectly.
Michelle, when did you get married? Tell me a little about that.
Well, okay, now you're going to make me I've been engaged 5 times, married once. I'm like thinking, okay, well, the real marriage. Okay, let's go there. Sorry. All right, so I got married at about age 30, and I say about because I can't even remember now, but as I'm thinking back, it was 30. It was 30 years old. I felt so much younger, although it was last year. And you know what, I'm being so silly, I'm sorry. I can't, you're asking about the marriage. All right, so I better be straight about this. I got married when I was 30. And I felt like I was really mature and ready to do that. And now looking back on it, I was so young and so naive and just didn't really know the importance of what I was getting into, I don't think. And what I have an equation that I do tell a lot of people, which is marriage is so easy to get into and so hard to get out. So it's really something to think about, plan for, know what you want, and I don't think that I had a lot of that happening for me. And but it was a great lesson, a great person. It was difficult, and I was married for 2.5 years, and probably 2 years longer than was necessary. But you know, I learned a lot of great lessons.
So if you do it again, what would be the
Oh,
person
God.
you would be attracted
Oh
to?
God! Oh God! No, because I'm terrified of marriage, and I'll tell you why. The reason why I'm terrified of marriage is, see, well, I'm just going to tell you the truth. It's because of financial reasons. I had a very difficult time in that first marriage, and it left a lot of wounds as far as financially how you're tied together, and I wasn't making those decisions on my own, and someone else was making them for me and on my behalf, and it was really, really not fun. Not a fun time to go through. I had a lot of healing to, take place afterwards. I was left with a lot of debt. I never used my credit cards like, he had wanted us to, and I had to get out of that, and it had to, pay the price for a year, and I did. I was completely out of debt and paid that off, and I was living in a beautiful waterfront home at the time with him. But he wasn't able to keep that up, and certainly I wasn't able to keep that up by myself either, and so went into a very small, I actually ended up living on my sister's couch for a few months, and then ended up in a very small studio apartment, and that's what I did, and I knew it was just for now. And so if I could share with anyone out there that if you're going through any time of adversity, first of all, you can see it's raining here, and there's no tsunami, there's no storm, there's no tornado that doesn't have an end. They all have an end. And my storm, I knew, was going to have an end too. And so when you tell yourself in your head that it's just for now, and it's a temporary situation, you get through it, and you get through it to the other side, and there are brighter days that will come ahead. And there always are. There always are. So, for me, it was a year. And when you think about it, in the scheme of things in life, a year out of my life having a little bit of difficulty, which, that was one of them, but it isn't that long. A year really isn't that long in the scheme of things. So got through that and got through the other side. So thinking about getting married again it's I don't know about that. It would have to take a person who, it's a much deeper thing to me, a much bigger commitment financially. It means a lot to us besides just the love part of it and your commitment and your devotion. You're building a life together, and you're building your finances together, and the law says that. And so that's something that has to be considered.
Sounds like independence is an important thing to you.
It's freedom and having, really the equation that I have for a relationship is I see it being two birds flying in the sky. And I see, how birds' wings are so delicate. And I see us flying together, and sometimes they fly higher, sometimes you fly higher, sometimes one's going faster, but you never pull on that wing. You never pull on that other person's wing because it's going to damage it and pull it down. You just want to fly together, and hopefully you'll bring some wind under them if they need it, and they can bring some wind under you. So that's kind of how I see relationship. But if we kind of want to go see a little tree over here by ourselves, we might want to do that every once in a while too.
That sounds great.
Yeah.